Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm with Esther today.
Hello.
Esther is a podcaster as well.
I am.
She has a podcast called Vulva the Revolution, which is amazing. Tell us about your podcast. Tell us about you, like what you love to chat about.
I record a podcast. It's like a feminist podcast, but it's also just like a celebration of women and like people who do amazing like things, from activism to women who run their own business, and just generally just like a celebration of people who do amazing things. And that's kind of like what I'm all about, just speaking to people and celebrating other people's successes and also just making friends with like loads of amazing, interesting women. I love that. It's like such a good excuse. So yeah, that's me.
Yeah, that is definitely a perk I've found of starting a podcast. Have like the perfect excuse to talk to really cool people.
Yeah, it's so
who
nice.
you like follow and like admire online.
Yeah, it's so nice, and like just learn. I learned so much doing it. Like last week, I spoke to this woman who's developing the first physical vagina museum, and she's a scientist, and I just learned so much about vaginas. It was amazing, and I was like, oh, we obviously just spoke about vaginas for like an hour. Yeah, it's your dream. And I was just like sat there like. Literally, my eyes were like opening and like my mouth was opening because they were just like, she was so interesting, and I was like, I just learned so much.
I've not listened to that one yet.
Oh yeah, you should. It's so good.
I need to give people a backstory actually who might not have listened to my podcast.
Oh yeah,
my interview
so
on your
Vulva.
podcast. I will link that in the show notes, and obviously go and listen to the podcast in general because it's really cool. But I need to give people a backstory because me and Esther met on a women's radio show in Salford called Divas Up North, which is again like really cool. I don't think it's running at the moment, but we bonded over like how open we are about like women's bodies and
as Kat just walked in now, I was like, it's like, hi, how are you? It's like, yeah, so just like talking about my cervix. Just really like open about it. Straight in there.
Definitely. And it's actually like a running joke between me and my boyfriend. It was for a while. It's kind of tapered off now. He used to call me Vagina Girl because it seemed like whenever I had the opportunity, I would talk about my vagina online, like, or on the radio.
The boy that I was seeing, he was like, so I like hurt myself, and I was like, maybe I should tweet about this, and he was like, Esther, you don't need to tell everyone about your vagina all the time. And I was like, I think I do. I think it's my duty actually.
Breaking down those taboos.
Yeah, people need to talk about these things.
Yeah. I'm exactly the same. And basically when I said like bye to Adam this morning, he was like, are you going to discuss vaginas? And I was like, well actually I wanted to talk to her about feminism, but vaginas will probably come up at some point.
So
and I love that they've come like
in the first minute. I'm sorry.
That is the meat of the interview. Vaginas.
So sorry. I'll try and roll it in.
No, please don't.
Classic me.
So tell us a bit more about how you actually got started with Vulva Revolution, like what sort of came about to make you start a podcast.
So I was like I've always been obsessed with podcasts, like ever since I was about 12, and I started off listening to like Russell Brand's podcast and like quite a lot of like sexist stuff actually, because they were like frequently just kind of talked about women really badly and stuff like that. But I was really obsessed with them because I just think it's the most like comforting thing, listening to someone in your ear. And then they kind of like got a lot of traction over the past few years, and then I started listening to more and more, and I was like, hang on a minute, I could do this. So I was like, I could speak to just loads of women and talk to them. So that's what I literally decided that I was going to do it, bought my microphone, and then my first guests were going around Manchester, and I just sent them an email, and then from there it just kind of grew, and it's just really nice. Get to meet loads of people. And
yeah,
it is excellent. Yeah.
So let's dive straight in then to the deep stuff. Your podcast is a feminist podcast. You're very passionate about women, like doing cool shit. I think what I want to do today is sort of have an open discussion about feminism that's approachable and accessible, because I know for a lot of women listening, definitely a lot of women I speak to day to day who might not like be in the same circles, they find feminism quite intimidating. They still hold on to like old stereotypes about it, and it's obviously changed so much in the past, even like a couple of years, I would say, but especially like 5 to 10 years. How did you sort of like get into feminism, and I guess what does feminism mean to you in a way that can, you know, get through to women who might be a bit intimidated by it?
Yeah, I think when I was at school, I remember I remember saying all sorts of stuff about women and just being one of those people that was really dismissive. And then it was through quite like an educational way that I started to like learn about things and like theories, and really made me think about kind of the systems that are in place that hold back women and allow men to flourish. But then the more kind of as soon as that switched on in my brain, I could not stop thinking about it and seeing it everywhere. And I think more recently, like you say, in the past 2 years, I think that there's things that you can't deny that not only happen to women, but that happen to women because of the way that things are set up. For example, like the Me Too hashtag, and like all these things that you cannot ignore, because there's so many things that happen because there are men in powerful positions, or because women are the more vulnerable kind of party. And I do think that makes it kind of more undeniable that things are set up for men. But I also think that just being really positive about women has become like a lot more the norm. I think that previously people have like pitted women against each other and been really like allowed like talk about jealousy and bitchiness, and now I think that women just celebrate women, and that is feminism in itself, like being celebratory about a peer who is a woman, and just being and defensive of women, and like just believing that women are equal, which is like the fundamental of it, but also with things like intersectionality, like being aware of like other cultures or other genders, or you know, just anyone who is also oppressed and might need a leg up. Like that's just helping out other people, you know.
Yeah.
And so there we know. I just went off on a tangent there, but I do think that in terms of like making it accessible, I think that like Beyonce makes it accessible. Like she's like,
oh my God.
yeah, like she's like a great example of like how she's a powerful woman, and she's like had to like make it's like probably 10 times harder for her because she's a woman, but she's made it, and she talks about
and a black woman
and a black woman, and she talks about celebrating women all the time, and I just think just look at Beyonce.
Beyonce is she's my queen.
Whose isn't she?
Yeah, it's like, you know, when someone says, oh, I think Beyonce is a bit overrated, or you know, when you meet someone and they're like, oh, I'm not that keen on chocolate, or like, oh, I don't like Nutella, and you're instantly like, weird. That's how I feel when people are like, oh, I think Beyonce's a bit overrated, or oh, I'm not that keen on Beyonce.
In what way is Beyonce overrated? Because I feel like even if you don't like her music, she's just like an exceptional person. I think that you just got to be like, you're an incredible woman. So
So basically, modern day feminism is Beyonce.
Yeah, well, basically.
Yeah. Can we talk about intersectionality, because that is a term and a concept that I've learned a lot about in the past couple of years, but before that was completely alien to me.
Yeah,
and I would have just been like, so like not even knowing where to start in terms of learning about it. And obviously there's a huge conversation online now, especially because like I'm a blogger, and there's a huge debate about influencers and diversity in marketing campaigns, and you know, more like disabilities, or more like different cultures, different women of colour in marketing. And it's obviously a huge hot topic that a lot of people are starting to think about. But you know, modern day feminism has been on that for like the past couple of years, I would say.
Yeah, I 100% think so. I think that I've learnt so much in the past 2 years. Like doing this podcast, I've been doing it for nearly 2 years now, and even like the name Vulva Revolution, especially more recently, like the subject of kind of only thinking of women biologically in terms of like vulvas, vaginas, like that is exclusionary. That's something that I've like really been thinking about recently, and like wondering how to kind of go around it and how to kind of tackle that. But I just think it's really important because there's like that famous saying that's like whilst there are some women who aren't free, I'm not free, and that's kind of, it's a similar thing where it's like, surely if there are loads of people, like all of these different parts of society and people, women from different cultures or different abilities, different genders, different sexualities, then it's not a level playing field still. And that's kind of the problem. That's what feminism is fighting for, is we want a level playing field. And whilst there are still all these people that aren't being kind of helped out or catered for or given a leg up, then it doesn't really make for a full kind of like full equality.
So intersectionality is not just looking at yourself.
It's like
it's thinking about all the different minorities that come under the concept of women and not just like people who were born with a vagina, or not just like white women, or not just like middle class women.
Because I think it's really easy as like a white middle class woman to just be like, well, obviously the problem is that it's gender and it's only women who are, or it's like not only women, but it's really easy to be like, this is my cause and I'm going to fight for women, when actually there's so many different things that are like a part of the whole argument and movement for equality. So it's such like but I think what's really important is that you look and you learn constantly, and I think that the best way kind of, or the way that I have been learning is just like listening, like listening to different points of view and different people, because if you've never experienced it, then you're never going to know. So you just need to like listen to people's stories and hear more.
Which is why I think it's so amazing. People like, is it Monroe Bergdorf?
Yeah,
is that how you pronounce her name? She's obviously been in the press a lot in the past year, and I think that's what she's saying and what she's fighting for is amazing and is so needed. And like I follow like plus size bloggers or like women of colour who are beauty bloggers, and they're fighting against brands that aren't showing diversity in their campaigns, or bloggers with disabilities or mental health, and there's all sorts of like,
it's becoming more accessible, and it's like an actual conversation. I think that before it's like showing all these strong women, that's the answer, we've just got to show strong women, and now it's like, no, you've got to show all these different parts of society who are buying your product, watching your TV show, doing all these things. It's like, if like there's like the phrase, you can't be what you can't see. If you're not representing those people, then they're not going to be interested. And I know that often it is used to kind of like as like a marketing ploy or whatever. But I also think that the more people are shown, the more it kind of drip feeds into your life, and the more that you're going to consider those things. And I think that one really tangible and like really kind of visible thing is accessibility. And like, if you are able-bodied, then you're never going to think about kind of the things that disabled people might need, and when that's like something you can physically quite easily change, about like a venue that you're going to put an event on at, or like inviting your friend round who's got disability. You don't think about those things if you've got like a staircase or whatever. I don't know, that's like a really visible thing that you can change, or like that you can like kind of relate to. That's
really interesting. I totally agree that it's becoming more accessible, so hopefully it's becoming less intimidating to learn about things. But like one thing I want to chat about, because this is something that I really struggle with too, and I feel bad about it a lot. It's because there's so much is changing, in even like language and like different words that you can use to describe people, and there's so much complexity that goes into it, all these different issues and the overlap, and I can feel like I obviously don't want to offend anyone. I don't want to say the wrong thing. I don't want to sound like I'm being exclusionary or whatever. But it's almost like sometimes it can feel difficult to know what to say at all. And I think that's where feminism at the moment is putting some people off, because they almost like they don't want to say the wrong thing, or they think that someone is going to get offended if they voice any sort of opinion, so they just sort of...
It's like the question of whether it's like, is it better to be having the conversation at all and using the wrong language and perhaps offending someone,
exactly,
like innocently offending someone,
yeah.
Or is it better to be having like the broader and like proper clued up conversations? I think it's really difficult, isn't it? Because I'm also often intimidated, and I'm in those conversations, and I'm actively looking for those conversations. I think surely it's better to be having chats about bad things you've seen happen to women, or bad things you've seen happen to anyone, and like thinking about the ways that you can change it, and then learning the language. Surely there's got to be like an entry point.
Yeah, I know. I agree, and I think if you're like actively seeking to learn and to grow as a person to benefit other people, then that can only ever be a good thing. But I do think that like there are, if you, like especially online, or if you're a blogger or whatever, if you say something wrong, it's like a lot of people will just instantly like either shut you down or completely disregard like everything you say from then on. And almost like label you like transphobic, or even though that was never your initial intention. So like it's really hard as a blogger who is passionate about feminism.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think when you put yourself out there, it's really easy for you to put yourself out in the wrong way. But if you just do put like a step out of line, but I think that also it's really important to just be like, I was wrong. I didn't know, or like I've learned. Like I've had a few messages about the name of the podcast, and I'll just be like, I'm learning. I didn't even 2 years ago. This wasn't part of the conversations that I was having, and now they're very much part of the conversations that I was having. Yeah. So yeah, I think you've just got to learn. It's like I saw something really good about Emma Watson, because when she started the he for she in 2015, it was very kind of like what is often described as like white feminism, where it's just really like, well, it's about gender equality and that's it. As long as you think that women are equal, like that's that. Which is obviously very much the case, kind of still, but there's lots of little things, lots of little different parts to it. And then she came out and she was like, 2 years ago I was really naive and thought that was just the case, but now I know about intersectionality, I know about this and this and this, and I'm learning and I'm growing. And I think she's gained quite a lot of kudos and like respect for that, because she's a public figure that talks so openly about this, and she's like come out and just been like, I've learned. This is what I've learned. It's that good that I've learned. Yeah. So that's what I think you need to, like, people need to do more often.
I was just going to say something awfully, like, not feminist. I was just going to say, and I'll just say it anyway now. I was just about to say it takes a lot of balls to do that.
It's a lot of guts.
It takes a lot of,
I always do stuff like that. See? I'm always like, don't be a pussy, and then I'm like, hang on.
Bad feminist. And we beat ourselves up, because I'll say something and I'll be like, oh, why? Or like, it's so ingrained in us as women to pit ourselves against other women or judge other women.
It's like the other day I was watching the Kardashians.
Look at another woman and see, and if she has something better than us or something we want, to see that as like a negative reflection on us, and to be like, oh.
Yeah. It's like the other day I was watching the Kardashians, and I was like, and I like I'm like actively trying not to go on what someone looks like. I'll actively try not to like be like, they're really pretty, or she like, as in, I'll obviously acknowledge if someone's beautiful, but as in, if like, that's not, I don't want that to be the first and only thing I notice about a woman. It's usually a woman that you're being like, she's really beautiful.
Yeah.
And so I was watching the Kardashians, and I was like, I think that Kourtney's the prettiest Kardashian, and then I was like, hang on a minute, what am I doing? And I was just like sat here comparing the Kardashians. I was like, that's not. I know obviously that their brand is very much like their looks, but I was still trying to like, she's also really unorganised. You know? Yeah. So. Yeah.
I know. I get so defensive when people like slut shame Kim.
Oh my god. Yeah. Same.
I'm like, just like my back is up. I'm like,
she's a businesswoman. She's got 3 children now. She's doing stuff for the homeless in LA. Like, I was like, I'm just like.
Did you see that tweet? She said like since that episode they'd raised a certain amount. I think it was like in the millions of dollars. Like people had gone to donate to them.
And she's like a businesswoman in her own right. Like without Kanye, like she was something without Kanye.
Yeah.
And I think that that's like something that is undeniable about a woman in the public eye. Like, come on, guys, she's done so much. And Kris Jenner is like amazing.
Kris Jenner is a fucking boss.
She's unbelievable. What anyone says. It's so funny because I've only just started watching the Kardashians in the past.
Like, she is my favourite.
Yeah, so I only watched like maybe 7 episodes in total, but I'm obsessed, obviously, because it's so easily lured. But I'm so defensive. I was defensive of them before anyway. I'm like super defensive of them now. I'm like, the Kardashians are amazing.
I know.
Obviously they're lucked out, but also what they've done with it is amazing.
Yeah.
I can't believe that we've moved on to the Kardashians so quickly as well.
Let's chat about podcasting more.
Yeah.
Because, as you said, like you just wanted to do something, so you bought the mic and you just emailed your first guest and you got on with it.
Mm.
And I think a lot of people listening to this episode are probably sitting on a project or a side business or they might dream about having their own business and going self-employed or whatever it is, something like huge that they want to create and they're passionate about, and they're just sitting on it and not doing
100%.
anything about it, and they're just carrying on with day-to-day life feeling like there's something missing and they have this like creativity inside them that they want to get out. What advice would you give to someone if they're feeling like stuck and they need to just take that leap?
It sounds so cheesy, but just do it. Or just take the first step, because I think that if you, like with anything kind of difficult or daunting, if you break it down into what I need to do to achieve that or like get through, even if like I'm having a difficult day, I'll be like, I'll break it down and be like, right, first thing I will do, get out of bed. Second thing I've got to do, leave the house. Like that's all you need to do today. Like, so in terms of like big projects or something intimidating like that, it's like first thing I need to do, buy a microphone, or first thing I need to do, set up my blog, or anything like that. If you want to start like your own crafting business, like the first thing you need to do is just look up how much something is and buy a bulk of yarn. Just take the first step and then continue that way. Like I don't even actually write physical lists. I just kind of every kind of thing that I need to do, I'm like, right, now I need to do this, now I need to do that. I think you just need to take one step at a time and just, I think sometimes the bigger picture is really daunting. And I feel like when I started Vulva, I was like, what if blah blah from year 10 thinks I'm really stupid for starting this? And I was like, do I give a shit? That's like the things that stop you. It's like what people are going to think of you, and that's like the only thing that probably will ever stop you. It's like, do you give a shit? Like what if it fails? It really doesn't matter, especially if it's kind of, if you're doing it one step at a time. It's like, oh well, that failed, I've learned my lesson, like this is how I can improve for next time, or this is, I think you've just got to like do it, but do it step by step, and then it's just so much easier, rather than thinking about the pressure of what people are going to think. Is anyone going to listen? Is anyone going to read my blog? Is anyone going to buy my things? It's not a huge big thing if you're doing it one step at a time.
Yeah, I love that. And I would add to that, like, not caring about what people think, but also even when you're like nervous about what people are going to think, focusing on why you're doing it.
Oh yeah, that is really good.
Because you need something, you need a why behind why you're doing it to push through those like moments.
Yeah,
I don't want to.
I like
take the leap.
Going back to the thing where it's like, well, I care what people think about me. I went to this it was my friend's birthday party, and there was a lot of people from school there, and like I don't hang out with anyone from school, and I post so much about myself online, and post so much about my vagina, and like post so much about just like so open about like people I've slept with, or like just like stuff like that that's like really like I would never just have a conversation with Dan from year 10 about my vagina, but he'll probably have seen that because I just put it everywhere. And then I'm like, hang on a minute, do I want to, because the reason I do those things is to break down taboos and like show that female sexuality is like valid and things like that,
Yeah.
So I'm like, do I really give a shit about what he thinks, or do I care about doing these things, and even if this isn't really affecting that many people. I've had a conversation with 2 people about their vagina, and therefore, you know, or like their sex life, and therefore those are 2 people who are having chats about sex, like, who are like, so it's like, it is having that like, do I care about getting all these views, or hits, or do I care about starting conversations and or
helping people,
or you just getting your creative outlet. I think that's a really good reason to do anything, is to be creative. And I think that's like, oh well, I'm really proud of myself doing that. I'm really pleased with what I just did today. I'm like, that's pretty, you know, like, that creative outlet I think is really important. And I go stir crazy if I don't do anything kind of proactive or creative. Although I think that a lot of people aren't necessarily like as ridiculous as I am, where I'm like, I've got to do something every day. But there are people who might like, it's so frustrating. So just take a day off. But like, people sometimes, I think there's a lot of pressure to be like that. And even if you're not like that, I think that you'll feel good if you do something creative, even if it's just something small. Like, you'll just be like, cool, I did something like that. I don't know, did something that is physical, and I can see that I've done it. Yeah.
Love it. Great advice. So let's move on to the quick questions that I ask every guest at the end. So first up is, what are your non-negotiable self-care rituals? Like, what are your go-to things when you've had a long day and you're a bit stressed or uptight and you need to just zen out and chill?
I think that
good for yourself.
When I'm like, if I'm like panic about something, I should be like, look, it's cool. No one died today. Like, I'm like, that's the worst thing that can happen, is that I can hurt someone, or like I could die, someone in my family could be hurt. So I'm like, right, cool. Whatever you've done today, or whatever you've not done today, it's not as bad as that. So like, allow yourself to just go to bed. I'm just like, I'm like, just chill out. There's really nothing's bad. So I'll like go to bed without having sent an email, or without having, you know, done something that I should have done, which actually
feel like you've said the wrong thing in your email.
Exactly. But the world is still turning, and you know, people, like, your friends still love you, so just go to bed. So I'll just be like, right, I'm just going to stay in, I'm going to watch Gilmore Girls, I'm going to watch Mad Men, I'm just going to sit in bed and watch TV, because, like I said before, I'm like, I always have to be doing something. So if I've had a difficult time, I'm just like, there's no, you don't owe anyone anything, you just need to go to bed. So I'll go to bed, I'll watch TV. Also, what I'm really bad at is cooking for myself. So like, if that's like that thing where I break things, like if it's having a bad day or in a bad situation and I break down my day, I'm like, what you need to do right now is put some pasta on, like, just cook. You just need to feed yourself, because you can't go to bed hungry. So like, I'll eat and then go to bed, and that's like, I just need to cook and go to bed. And then if I'm like super sad, I'll get in the bath. But only if I'm super sad.
Bath's fit.
But sometimes I'm like, I've got too much time to think in here, but also sometimes it's just like, oh right, again, it's that thing of like, I mean, I could have just had a bath. Like, there's no need to worry, you know, where it's like, the world is still turning. You've not fucked up. Everything's good. Yeah. There's a weird way of like looking at things, but
no, I love that. I have that same like pep talk with myself where I'm like, Kat, just chill out, everything's okay, you're doing your best.
I also think like that thing where you're like lying in bed going crazy about something and overthinking everything, as soon as your head hits the pillow, like as soon as you go to sleep and you wake up in the morning, it is never as bad as it was the day before. So that's why I think my thing is go to bed, because I'm like, if you just wake up in the morning, no matter, like, I had a really difficult breakup at the beginning of the year, and every day it's like, every day is going to get better, so just go to bed. Like, when you wake up in the morning, it'll be better than yesterday. Like, or if it's not, do the thing where you're like, just got to get out of the house today, just got to eat, you know. Just got to keep going.
So true. Next question.
Sorry, that wasn't quick fire.
No, it's good. It's all good. It's all good. I did say rituals, like plural, so it's okay. What is challenging you to leave your comfort zone and grow recently?
Oh, that is such a good question. I think that although I'm long term, this probably is, rather than like every day, I'm very much kind of very comfortable at the moment. I live in a nice flat. I have an easy job, as in like I've got a 9 to 5. You know, there's nothing. But because of that, I'm very stuck in my ways. Like even today, I was like walking in town and I saw a new restaurant and I was like I've not walked on this street because I just do the same thing like all the time. So I'm really actively trying to look for something new, whether that's like going. I want to go travelling, but that's like I'm really bad with money. But I want to like do something that I haven't done this year and break out of that schedule and routine. I think it's really easy to do when you're living like a really nice, comfortable life, which I am, and I'm really, really grateful for. But I also think that it's important to change. Yeah. So I'm gonna go to that restaurant. And that's what I'm gonna do to take myself out of the conversation.
Sometimes it's just that. I asked that question because I'm really passionate about not staying in your comfort zone too long and trying to just leave it, even if it's just a step outside of it, because that's where like new experiences, like growth. Yeah, I also like I don't do this so much anymore because I've got such a busy, like hectic life at the moment. But, like I know I've just said that I do the same thing every day, but you know, like I've still got like but I think that what I really changed. I read this book called Yes Man, which is like a silly book, but where he says he doesn't say no to anything, he says yes to everything. I was like, I'm just going to start saying yes to stuff. Like, no matter, even if I don't want to go, I'm just going to say yes, because what's the worst thing that can happen? I can leave. That's it. If I'm hating it, I can leave. So I started to like say yes to parties that I didn't want to go to, because I'm a bit like, I really hate the idea of going to parties, and then when I'm there, I'm like, oh, this is really fun. Yeah. Like, or like just being like introvert life. Yeah, exactly. Whereas actually, I'm really sociable. It's just kind of the initial getting into it. So it's just saying yes to things that you wouldn't normally do, because what's the worst that can happen? You can leave. Yeah. That's it. Next question is, what are your 2018 goals?
Oh, this is good. So my New Year's resolution is a really good one, and I feel like if I say it to other people, then they'll be like, yeah, that's a really good one. So just my brief New Year's resolution is to never use plastic cutlery and always carry around a spork. There you go. Thank you, everyone.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, so just get your own spork, even on takeaways. So use less plastic, but I feel like that's a really trivial one. My 2018 goals is probably to get out of my rut. Like I'm in a really like comfortable situation. I want to like go travelling and carry on meeting more amazing people. So I know that's not like a tangible thing, apart from the travelling, I guess it is. But I just want to continue with the podcast, learn and grow, and get out of my rut.
So the next and the last question is, what can we get excited to see from you this year, in the coming months, and where can people go to find you and follow you online?
So the most exciting thing that I've got coming up, and the kind of next big thing, is I've got a charity clothes swap with Girl Gang Manchester in Manchester, and it is raising money for MASH, which is Manchester Action on Street Health, and they work with women in sex work and kind of support and advise them physically, like with their mental health, etc., or like financial kind of advice. Yeah. So they do amazing work, and that is at Plant Noma, which is near Shoot Hill, and it's on the 24th of Feb, Saturday 24th of Feb, 1 till 5. And you can find all the information for that on like my social media, which is my Instagram is Vulva Revolution, and that is the thing that I'm probably most active on. But you can download and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, other podcast apps. And the Twitter is at vulva.revolt, Facebook Vulva Revolution. And if you want to email, it's vulvarevolution@gmail.com. And I'd love to hear from anyone about anything.
Yay! Thank you so much for talking to me today. And all of those links and info will be in the show notes, which is horrocks.com/podcast. Thank you. You'll definitely have to, you're my go-to like feminist gal, so you'll definitely have to come on for a part 2.
Oh my god, yeah. I love that.
Thank you so much for watching and listening, everyone, and I will see you soon. Bye.